We are joined now by Hockey Hall of Famer here on the AT&T Hotline and new assistant coach for the Buffalo Sabres, Bryan Trottier. Join us here. Bryan, good morning. Thanks for taking the time out today.
Kevin, Andrew, pleasure. Thank you. It's going to be exciting last month here for me, and at the same time, it's going to be a real fun winter for all us involved with the coaching staff, and hopefully it'll be an exciting year for our Sabre fans.
Before we get down to business, I got to ask you a question. I'm looking at a picture. I think there's a gentleman here that thought you were going to be in studio here. And there's a picture of you with John Tonelli, I believe, number 27 on the Islanders. Was that John Tonelli?
John Tonelli.
And he has his arm around you, and it looks like you guys are getting ready for a team picture. And you're giving a I want to say thumbs up, but it's not thumbs. Have you ever seen that picture?
It's not one of my proudest moments, but the photographer at the time, our team photographer was double pumping us, and we said to ourselves, here's one back to you. I mean, he caught me right in full flight, and again, it's one of those embarrassing things. The league came down on me. General manager, the coach hauled me in, and what is going on here? This is not what we want to represent. I said, you get those moments where you say, you know what? Okay, lesson learned.
When was that? That looks like you guys were in a pretty good mood, as the Islanders probably mostly were with all your cups and winning. So was that like a team picture right before the year-end photo, or there's guys sitting on the boards? I can't imagine it's that casual during a game. And guys got sneakers on.
Yeah, it's mid-'80s. I mean, it's right around the time we had just won maybe third, fourth cup, and we're feeling good about ourselves. I mean, we're not a cocky bunch, but we're sure a confident bunch, and a great group of guys. I mean, John Tonelli, has got one of those guys, one of those, tenacious, fierce competitors that just brought his game all the time. Mike Bossy, Clark Gillies, Dennis Potvin, Billy Smith, all great friends, great teammates. We had great success, but no, that was a fun time to be an Islander, and it's fun to reflect and reminisce. But at the same time, it's the present and the future are even more important to be talking about right now.
Exactly.
I know.
Agree.
Last question. I swear,
Yes.
Last question. Is that Brian Kilrea in the background of the picture? Was he one of your assistant coaches?
It is. They brought Bryan in for a couple years, and we had so much fun with Bryan. He was teammates with Al Arbour years and years ago when they played in the minors. And Bryan was a heck of a coach with the Ottawa Senators, and we had great success up there. Not the Senators, but the
67s,
the junior team. But he was a great addition for the couple of years that we had him. He was really good to the veterans, and a great storyteller. We're still good friends today, and we're just we love that time we spent with Bryan Kilrea.
Bryan Trottier with us here. Well, I think the pictures, I think it's funny because the smirk on your face on it. So I don't think you should be that embarrassed about it. And you're Bryan Trottier.
And Buffalo will love
moments.
that.
Yeah, Buffalo loves that. They probably think you're doing that to Bon Jovi right now. So anyway, you're following current events. Excellent. Bryan Trottier with his Hall of Famer, 6-time Stanley Cup winner as a player, and, of course, also part of the Colorado Avalanche team as assistant coach, winning the Stanley Cup. You mentioned a name there, Al Arbour. Can you tell us what it was like playing for Al Arbour and the impact he had on that collective group of outstanding players that won 4 straight cups?
Well, Al was a great motivator. I mean, he was probably our father figure in the fact that we all respected him so much. He had a great command of the room. At the same time, he had a big man's presence. He had won a lot of Stanley Cups as a player with several different teams. He played with great players, so he always brought that credibility with him. And for us to sit down with him one-on-one, or when he was in front of us as a team, he had a great presence, and we love the man today. He's going through a little tough time with dementia right now, but we all love Al for all the great times we've had together and his leadership. He was always calm under pressure. He was actually pretty funny because we knew this one quick story. He was looking for a line. He was bawling us out about something, and he's yelling at us, "You guys are playing like, you guys are playing like." And just then, one of the the kids that worked one of the rooms, he came in with one of the players' skates that had just gotten sharpened, and there's Al screaming at us, so he backed up against the wall and hit the light switch, and the lights all go out in the room, and he just goes, like you're playing in the dark, and he storms out of the room. Well, we sat in there for about 15 minutes, and I went over, flicked the light back on, and I talked to Al years later, and I said, timing is everything. That Deschamps boy came in right at the right time. He said, you were stuck for a line. He goes, oh, yeah, it was awesome. He said, I didn't know what I was going to say, but, when you're playing in the dark, you're not playing very well.
Bryan Trottier joining us here. All right, Bryan, you won 4 straight as a member of the New York Islanders, 2 straight as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Which team was better?
Well, to a man, I think we feel our Islander team. We won 4 straight, and we just about snuck a 5th one out of that. We probably should have been in the finals, maybe in '79. But you learn from those defeats, and that group. We always felt like we were just a little on the sense of invincible, and it was just a really fun feeling. And you want to ride that wave as long as you possibly could. I mean, the 2 teams that we had here, the 2 years we had here in Pittsburgh with Mario Lemieux as our leader, and a young Jaromir Jagr, and Ronnie Francis. I mean, these guys are all going to be, 2 of them were Hall of Famers already, and you got Jagr, ready to be inducted. I think there's just a sense of great pride with that team. And I'll tell you, I was a little younger on the Islander team, so I felt I was just a little bit more full of that vim and vigor. I think that young guys have, that you need that enthusiasm. And as a veteran here in Pittsburgh, I just felt like I was a little more like a caboose that kind of kept people on the tracks. And it was a wonderful role, and I certainly enjoyed it. But I wouldn't want to play against either team at the age I am now, because I just feel like there's a lot of knowledge that I want to share with young hockey players, and I just don't want to go out there and get banged up and have to sit in that recovery room and rehab to death with all the aches and pains that these guys go through. But I know that it's a fun time of your life, and these guys are playing a game that they absolutely love to death. And if I was 30 years younger, I'd be playing with these guys and just having a blast as well.
What is your, relationship with Ted Nolan, and how did the whole process of becoming a coach come about? And just, I want to add one more question into that one as well. And what's the message from Bryan Trottier going to be to a young Buffalo Sabres team?
Well, Ted Nolan, when he was just a very young coach in the NHL, for whatever reason, I was walking. Here's how the whole thing started. I was walking back from the old auditorium, the old Odd, back to the hotel, and it was the middle of winter, and I'm walking through the snow, and I'm just kind of going along, and Ted's driving along. He said, hey, do you want to ride? And I jumped in, and we had a quick 5-minute conversation, and from that, I think a mini friendship was born, because when he became coach of the New York Islanders, it just cranked up again, and it was just like old times. And through the years, I'd met his wife and his family, and got to, just respect, I think, the kind of game that he coached. At the same time, getting to know him through mutual friends and see him at different functions, and visiting with his wife Sandra a little bit more. It was just really kind of fun getting to know the other side of Ted. And then when he coached in New York here from 06 through, I think it was 09, I was player development with the New York Islanders, so I got to sit down with Teddy Nolan after games, pre-games, and Teddy's just an open book. I mean, he just tells you what he's thinking at the time, and he loves getting information about the young players down in Bridgeport, or some of the players I was visiting in junior and college, and just sharing a real wonderful rapport. And the funny thing is, we had a couple of differences on a few players, and it was just awesome to have that, just a real genuine disagreement about certain talents, and he might be a great skill, but he can't play the game. And it was really wonderful to see how, even though we didn't always agree, how we kind of got through the conversation, and at the same time always left, okay, see you next week. And from that, I think you develop another level of respect. You see how Teddy works on a day-to-day basis, and I think he saw, how I look at the players. And it was really wonderful when we had a chat this spring about what he was looking for in coaches. And it was a wonderful phone call, and, we talked about it, and he asked me if I wanted to get back into the game. I said, I'd love to help with the young players and player development. And he just thought long and hard on it. He said, I got an idea, and I want you to consider it. He said, I'll talk to you a little bit later about it. And he said, I'd like you back here 24/7 as assistant coach with me, and you could mentor and work with all the young guys that we have here on our roster. And I thought long and hard, and I said, you know what, it would be a real fun thing to do, and I just to work with Ted and Danny Flynn, who I met with the Islanders as well, and get back into the role and really be engaged was real. It got to gain energy, and I really enjoyed the conversations I've had with Ted through the spring and now through the summer, and talking philosophies and sharing ideas and what we can do and how we look at the team, and it just grew and grew and grew, and I just kept getting more excited about it. I said, Teddy, I'm all in. I'm going to jump in with both feet and give you all I got, and from there, I think it's just built. And my message for these for the young guys coming into camp is bring your best game. Bring your best game at the practice. Bring your best game come game time. And I said we're going to build a confidence. We're going to build just a real consistency here, so that when you step on the ice, you're building good habits. And I think those things are shared with the kind of the hustle and the work ethic that Teddy demands, and I think those things will just kind of like build and build and build, and will kind of snowball, and hopefully will rub off on each other, and they'll look each other in the dressing room, and when they get on the ice, and things will just be kind of like from habit and from good hard work and hustle, and there's no substitute for those kinds of things. You can have all the talent in the world without that energy and hustle and working hard for each other. Good things just don't happen. But Teddy can get the most of it. He's an overachiever in how he works, how he expresses himself, and I think the players look at that, and that rubs off on them as well. And I want to bring in energy. I want to bring in enthusiasm, even at my ripe old age of 58. And I think there's something that kind of develops with all that creativity and energy that the coaching staff will bring to this young team, and I'm looking forward to working with all these young players.
We are spending time with Bryan Trottier here, Hall of Famer, 7-time Stanley Cup winner, 6 as a player, 1 as assistant coach with the Colorado Avalanche, and I'm curious with that experience as being an assistant coach on a Stanley Cup winning team and having won 6. And having that been back in 12 years ago, I believe it was, with the Avalanche when you were assistant there, what do you think you've learned in those 12 years from observing hockey? You mentioned player development and not being on the bench. What do you think has changed? What have you learned that you're going to bring to the bench this year?
Well, the game is always going through, new things. There are a little bit of old things that just always seem to work. And I want to bring a little bit of my philosophies as a player, some of the philosophies that worked when I was assistant coach here in Pittsburgh and Colorado, and things that I believe have been consistent throughout championship teams that I've seen, whether I'm watching the current hockey teams or, teams of old. There's just some things that are just tried and true, and they always work. And I believe in those things. I believe with them all my heart, and working with young players in Colorado, for example, Chris Drury and Alex Tanguay and Milan Hajduk, and really raw skills, but just wonderful students of the game that wanted to learn. And when something would click, all of a sudden, the light bulb went on. They come back, they give you that little smile, and that was my reward. That was just like, all right, they're getting it now, and that's really wonderful, because there's a game with the puck and there's a game without the puck. We want to try to get that puck back when we don't have it, and obviously, it's not just one man trying to do it. That's where you get your forecheck going. That's how you get the squeezes going, and you just start relaying those kinds of messages. And when it clicks, I think it's really exciting for the players. It's really exciting for our coaching staff, and so all those years of just gaining that kind of knowledge, working assistant coach here in Pittsburgh, and then going off to Portland as head coach, and off to Colorado as assistant coach, and fortunate enough to have a great team there, and work with Bob Hartley and Jacques Cloutier. I mean, it was a wonderful team effort, and it's a different role when you're a coach. You're out there banging bodies as a player, and you're sweating, you're giving your blood, and you're behind the bench. You're encouraging, you're directing, you got your pom poms on, and you're rah on the guys as much as you possibly can. But there's such an appreciation factor as assistant coach that when these players are working their tails off, and that's all you can ask for. Just bring your best game, bring your concentration, work on your good habits. So come game time, it's all automatic. Those are some of the things, the philosophies, and some of the fun, because when things are happening at such a fast pace, and it is a fast pace in today's game. Our game was maybe a little more controlled and not quite as quick, but I'll tell you, it was a physical game and it was a demanding game, and these players are bigger and faster, and they're so well conditioned. They're concentrated on their nutrition, and focus is just a big part of it. And when you get going and the games start happening, the schedule starts going, and the grind's going through, that tests a certain player's mettle and their ability to kind of grind it out. And I enjoy watching these young players grow. I watch the veterans and how they develop leadership roles. I watch, the whole systems of the team and recognizing that, okay, here's some of our strengths, here's some of the things that you need to work on. And that's some of the stuff that you watch all the time, like through practice, through games, game video, watching other teams, maybe stealing a little bit from them. They're probably trying to steal a little bit from you, and just, conversing over the years, even through these last several years, working with young players in and around Pittsburgh at hockey clinics, young players that want to get to the NHL, and giving them some skill development, working with the Islanders in their player development over there, and watching these young players in Bridgeport wanting to get to the NHL and playing with the New York Islanders. And now they got 8 or 9 players on the Islanders that I've worked with directly, and I'm not the reason they made it to the NHL. They are, but to have a little bit of something to do with their success and them coming back and say, hey, Bryan, thanks for that wonderful little tip, or thanks, Bryan, for helping me get here. I was like, that's the appreciation factor from our side. So to share this, to be able to share some of this stuff, that my experiences, and share some of my philosophies, I think is going to be a fun time in Buffalo, and I'm really looking forward to working with the staff there, all the young players, the veterans, the hockey development people, and bringing some of that I don't know, just that fun energy I think that I still have left in my old body.
You answered like 15 of my questions there, and because you touched on every one of them. No, that was great stuff. But I still have one I want to ask, and you take yourself back to when you were the assistant coach and watching the time click down. You had already won 6 cups as a player, and you had guys like Chris Drury, I think Ray Bourque, Alex Tanguay. These were guys that were all winning just their first cup. Was it still, exciting for you because you're doing it in a different facet of the game, but yet you were also in a position to watch these guys, Adam Foote maybe I think was winning his second when you were there, guys like that to win their first or maybe their second?
That's one of the best questions people ask me. Winning as a player has a certain appreciation factor because, you're in the trenches and you have something to do with the outcome of the game. I mean, you're working with your teammates, you're working with your line mates, you're concentrating on what your job is, and you want to contribute offensively, and you want to make a difference. You want to bang a body and maybe change the momentum of a game or something. As a coach, you're directing and you're preparing, you're encouraging, you're constantly tweaking, and at the same time you got to keep your energy up. You got to be sharp. When a player has a quick question, you're on top of it. And when it all said and done, that you appreciate what these guys go through and the grind of the playoff and what they have to give in effort. And you see young players that grab a hold of the rope and they want to contribute, like the Drurys and the Tanguays and the Haydukes, and you have veteran players that are winning it for the first time, the Ray Bourques, who's played 20-some years and finally gets to hoist that cup over it, and how emotional it is for them, and you kind of reflect on how you remember that moment for yourself, and you see it for their family, and now you see Robbie Blake lifting it up for the first time, and Adam Foote, just the stay-at-home defenseman who will eat a puck for Patrick Waugh so they don't score a goal, and Joe Sakic doing the leadership stuff. And when these guys come up, put their arm around you, and they say thank you, I'm like, holy, no, thank you, no, thank you, Bryan. No, thank you. I mean, it's just, there's just such an appreciation factor when you look at each other's eyes when it's all said and done, and you say, that was so worth it. Every little bump and bruise, every little cut and scrape, every little battle that you win or you don't win, you come back and you give a second effort, it's all so worth it.
Okay, I promised Kevin that would be my last question. He's choking me because we got to get to break, but I have one more. You won the Calder, you won the Hart, you won the Art Ross, you won the King Clancy and the Conn Smythe. Which one of those awards meant the most to you?
Well, hands down, it's the Conn Smythe. I mean, it's such a trophy that reflects the effort you give and also recognizes your teammates' efforts for the greatest trophy in sports, the Stanley Cup, and to be recognized as the best players of the playoffs that year. I mean, was just was above and beyond what you ever expect. People are going to appreciate in your efforts. So that one has that special meaning. Obviously, the other ones have of the same value, but that one just seems to kind of stand out a little bit more. And I mean, every little thing that happens to you has a wonderful, warm feeling. Being inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, there's no higher honor. But to be kind of selected out of so many players that had such great playoffs that year, Mike Bossy, Billy Smith, I mean, we don't win without these guys.
And that was your first cup, too, wasn't it? That was the first cup for the Islanders that year.
The first cup for the Islanders, yeah. It was like one of those things, you can't dream about these things, and all of a sudden they plucked your name out of – they probably picked my name out of a hat. They were, okay, these 8 guys, boom. And I was the lucky guy that got my name picked out because – even Mike Bossy, who won the Conn Smythe, and Billy Smith and Butch Goring, they said, it could have been any one of the players that year. They had, they kind of picked the name out, but that's how you feel. There's such a wonderful moment where you say, okay, well, maybe it's for my family, maybe for the dedication of effort that you put into it, but also the little bit of sacrifice your family makes, through those years, whether it's your wife and children that you don't spend enough time with. Maybe it's your mom and dad that drove you to the rink when you were a kid. You look and reflect on that. You say, you know what? Hey, thanks, guys. It was you look back and you say, this was worth it. I mean, there's a little bit of sacrifice involved, but a lot of dedication, and it all pays off in the end because that's what we play for. We play for our pride. We play for our families. We play for the fans that are coming out to see us give a good hard effort, and it's so worth it in the end when you can look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I gave it my very, very best, and that's all you can ask for.
Long live the playoff
beers. And you give your best, hey, God bless them. But we've got a battling little young crew there, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
Great stuff. Bryan, thank you so much for taking time out today. I think I speak
let's do it again, guys.
Yeah, well, we will. I think I speak for all Sabres fans when they heard Bryan Trottier is joining the coaching staff said, wow, Bryan Trottier is on the Sabres coaching staff. That's fantastic.
Islanders were the first team to do the playoff beards, right?
Apparently so. They started before I got there. It was against the Rangers, I believe, and they just kept the beards going right through the Pittsburgh series and the Philadelphia series, and it proved to be, I guess, one of those little team bonding things that pulled them through their tough times. And I know for every year that we were there, we didn't shave in the playoffs, and it was kind of comical how, okay, we lost, so now we got to shave, and then boom, we wouldn't shave again until we lost another. Okay, we lost one, now we got to keep the shave until we lose another one. And some guys like Clark Gillies just kept it all the way through, and it made him look more menacing than he already was.
Good stuff. All right, Bryan, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you here in training camp.
Gentlemen, fun time. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Bryan Trottier.
I think the show's over. We just roll through commercials for the last hour.
Well, let's only run that. We'll rerun the other thing, and we'll go play golf.
Could honestly talk to him for another hour. I have a million more questions for him.